Today we make a final visit for this year to the Bitcoin SV incubator Satoshi Block Dojo, which has so far released 23 startups into the world. We'll be hearing from 3 members of its current group of founders who'll be pitching their ideas to an audience of potential investors. So stay tuned to hear about NFT creation, music production, and CBDC exchange. Kumaraguru Ramanujam wants to make central bank digital currencies more easily compatible, allowing cross-border payments and other kinds of financial exchange through Intrasettle, his payments infrastructure platform.
Intrasettle is basically a payment infrastructure built on the most reliable and scalable blockchain. So we are onboarding multiple CBDCs on a single platform.
Central bank digital currencies.
So what we are providing is a platform for multiple central banks to come and issue their CBDC. If they have a CBDC, they could put it onto our platform. Or if they have a traditional currency, they can issue their CBDC on our platform. So basically what we are building is a matrix of multiple CBDCs on a single ledger so that they could have finality of settlements and access to liquidity immediately and bring in all the benefits of having one ledger to compute.
And so who are your customers?
So we go from the top down. It could be central banks who would want to directly issue their CBDC on our platform. Or if central banks are already working and they already have a retail CBDC, they could just give us an API and we could give them a CBDC on our platform. Or we could even go to the wholesale bank who's got permission to use central bank money, would be able to issue CBDCs on our platform. The idea here is very simple. We want to have multiple central banks issue central bank money in this platform so that we could encourage instant settlements and cross-border payments on one platform.
When you say issue it on your platform, I thought the whole idea with CBDCs is that a central bank would simply issue its currency as digital.
Yes.
And that they didn't have to sort of decide where they were going to issue it. It just sort of gets out there and...
That's right.
But so when you talk about issuing it on your platform, what does that mean exactly?
So we could either look at it, say if a central bank already has a retail CBDC issued with their payment system, here it's more of a wholesale angle. So wherein we could have a one-on-one banking of the central bank digital currency on a platform. It's basically a representation of their CBDC. So it's a tokenized cash on our platform for them to get the benefits of having multiple CBDCs on one platform.
Right, so let me get this right. You're taking CBDCs and putting it into a sort of language that is common that will allow you to translate from one CBDC to another, which is your token, is that right?
That's right. Let's say for an example, a country's already got a retail CBDC working on the BSV blockchain. We are then able to provide them a multi-CBDC platform. For an example, let's say 5 central banks are using BSV blockchain to have issued their retail CBDC. All these 6 central banks can now come together on this one platform to have seamless exchange of cross-border payments, security settlements, any other use cases we could imagine in the cross-border leg, all happening on a single platform.
So how wrong would it be to say it's like a foreign currency exchange, but for CBDCs?
To a certain extent it is, right? It's just not just the foreign currency exchange. Along with it could be security settlements, bond settlements. It could be anything to do with cross-border cash.
Right. Now, I know your background and training was in computer science.
That's right.
But you seem to have got incredibly deep into the world of finance. I mean, you seem to be more of a finance expert these days to understand how all this stuff works.
Yes. So I think this is what BSV blockchain does to you when you dive deeper into understanding what money is. So I would say that I've gone a little deeper than I would usually gone to, but now I understand what's the difference between a central bank money and a money issued by a wholesale bank or a commercial bank. And this has helped us move from where we were, just looking at cross-border payments using BSV as a bridge asset.
That was your previous idea.
That's right. to moving towards a completely multi-CBDC environment where potentially it could bring down the cost of cross-border settlements by 80%.
When you're talking to bankers about CBDCs and stuff, do you find that you're actually having to explain to them how it works?
Not really. Some of them the people in the innovation division seem to understand what's happening. They're quite well read. So they're going through the Bank of International Settlements reports, and they are up to date with what's happening in this space. With some, I would have to go through the entire analogy of what a central bank money is and how different is it from a bank issued money, who's got the liability, so on and so forth. So having read a little bit on this do help.
I mean, it sounds like you've got a very sort of specific and worked out idea here, but I'm wondering how far the world needs to develop in using CBDCs in order for this to really come into its own.
To be honest, it's truly not my idea. It's an idea which has been, piloted by the Bank of International Settlements. I think there are close to about 7 MCBDC pilots that are happening all around the world.
Multiple
CBDCs. Yeah. So the idea is to have multiple countries issue the CBDC on one platform. So this has been tested by the Bank of International Settlements, and there are a few pilots that are happening right there.
Right, so you already have competitors with...
That's right. They're all in the pilot stage. My idea is just basically taking those multi-CBDC experiments on, say, Ethereum or Corda or some of these blockchains and having it on the most scalable blockchain and allowing for offline payments, tokenization and stuff like that.
In practical terms, what is going to be the first step in this, in actually getting something up and running?
Right now, we have developed a sandbox environment, so we could have a central bank come and issue their CBDC on our platform, then build on some governance layer to how the CBDC should work and who should have what access. Then they are then able to transfer the token or the asset to a wholesale bank, who are then able to give further access down to a payment interface provider, so on and so forth. We are also built-in capabilities, such in terms of a wholesale bank pledging their bond or any other asset to receive a central bank digital currency. So we have built this sandbox in a way so that whatever stage a central bank or a wholesale bank is in regards to a cross-border use case, we'd be able to give them an environment for them to test and see what might work for them, and then eventually go into a production stage.
I mean, it sounds complicated from a technical point of view, but I'm sure, what about from the regulatory point of view? Because you are going to be sort of responsible for potentially very large sums of money. How do you deal with that aspect of it?
So the work that the Bank of International Settlements has done in this space is quite tremendous. They've already have tested these pilots, and they've already proposed certain regulatory change for different jurisdictions on, okay, if this is the model that you're looking at, this might be some of the regulatory changes you might need. So we are piggybacking in
right.
on the work of, say, Bank of International Settlements.
So there is a set of kind of guidelines that if you stick to them, then basically you can say we've complied with regulations.
The central banks are now quite open, and especially in the space of CBDC. So it falls in line with the 19 building blocks established by the G20 and the FSA. So the 19th building block is to come up with new infrastructures that might change cross-border payment for the better. So they're quite open to testing and finding out, okay, what governance layers do we need, and other regulations in accordance with the governance layer we'll need for this technology. If not, how do we fix the regulations, and so on and so forth. So we are kind of following them in terms of, okay, this has already been discussed and looked over. All we are doing is just taking that and building that on the most scalable blockchain.
Well, Kumaraguru, it sounds like an amazing and incredibly ambitious project, but thank you so much for talking to me about it today.
Thank you, Charles. Thanks for having me.